It is good to be back and actually on time this time. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cup TV, the currently unnamed podcast where we put the real and the tea in reality, and you can always come to us first to quench your thirst. My name is Jack. I am the game designer and escape room host of the panel. I have played a decent amount of Genius games myself. Don't ask me how I did in them because you don't want to hear that. But this is a lovely little series that we're going to cover, and this episode is a great addition with a interesting main match that the producers never could have predicted went the way it did, and a classic death match that was a joy to see. But before we go any farther into the analysis of today's episode, I do have just a couple quick things to tell you about. So, first, if you love me or the coverage of the Genius, I would love it if you, in return, would hit the subscribe button down below. It did just glow rainbow, and unlike me, it actually can, say things effectively. So please feel free to subscribe, hit the bell, and throw a like on this video. That really would mean the world. In addition, if you disagree with anything I'm saying or have any interesting comments, please feel free to drop them below. I will try and respond to any comments that appear in a reasonable time. Second, if you love this channel or any other reality TV, we do have here, we have our drag channel, we have our WWE channel, and we have our Eurovision Song Contest channel, all looking to hit about 1,000 subscribers. The sooner we do that, the sooner we can give y'all incredible types of content that simply we don't have access to right now. So please, if you wouldn't mind, look in the Linktree link below if you're interested in any of the type of that content, and give us a couple follows, subscribes. In addition, if you are interested in listening to us on the go, we have our lovely audio podcast as well, where you can just hear us on any sort of streaming platform you like: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anything you might typically listen on. We also have our socials. We are the Cup TV across basically every single platform, and myself, I am Jack the Flop on Blue Sky and Instagram, and Jack the Flop TTV on Twitter. So please, if you love hearing my voice and my potentially controversial opinions, please feel free to follow me on there. And if you are looking for any type of merch or anything similar, please feel free to head to our link below where you can get lovely cup mugs, hats, and sweatshirts. That link is alanagcreations.etsy.com. One more time, that is alanagcreations.etsy.com. But with that, that is a lot of preamble for a very interesting episode where things didn't quite go to plan for almost anyone. We had an extremely dominant strategy run this game and a very nice and classic deathmatch. So let's jump into it. So we start this episode with our 9 remaining players entering the atrium, not really sure of what's happening. The couple of through lines that we have from the previous episode still are Amalfi and Bodelia not really getting along because Amalfi basically lied to screw over Bodelia, Ken, and the previous eliminated Scott in order to just try and get a zombie win, which good for Amalfi. He played that objectively amazingly. We have Ben, who has been in control a lot of the game and also had essentially the winning strategy for last round, and then also a winning strategy for the first round, but wasn't really able to implement it. So Ben and Amalfi are very much the two people who are very much in the public eye. Charlotte as well has been very much able to not skate by, but have an air of I'm willing to help you, even though she's basically been in the two major plans and basically been able to help out whoever she wanted at this point. So Charlotte is in an amazing spot going into this episode. We do get a couple more vignettes, one for Ken and one for Cordelia, which is nice to see. I believe we have almost everyone at this point except for Indy, which is interesting. I wonder why they're delaying her vignette for so long. But as everyone begins to pile in, as I scroll up on my lovely little notes here, we slowly we begin to determine what today's actual game is. And it is a game called Codebreakers. For those who are unaware, here's how it works. There is a 10-letter secret word that is presented privately. The goal of the game is to successfully get letters in that word in the right place and in the right position, and by the end of it, eventually figure out said word in order to successfully get the most points. Except for one person. Everyone in the game is assigned a random hint that could give them a clue towards the correct word. For this case, and I do want to thank Muser on the Genius Discord because they essentially wrote these out. For example, at least one letter appears twice in the word, or the code word contains at least 2 vowels, or the first 2 letters of the word feature 1 letter in the first half of the alphabet and 1 in the second half. They vary in terms of immediate usability, but with the other players, you can probably crack it pretty easily. Players then begin to discuss around, see what they can do, and at the end of the round, they go into the dealer room and submit 3 letters. If any of those letters are in the actual word, they score a point. If any of those letters are in the correct position in the actual word, they score a point on top of that. It's almost like Wordle rules with green and yellow letters. And there are 3 rounds of scoring only 3 letters. And then at the end, everyone can try and get all 10 letters of the word. Now, that would be a pretty nice logical deduction game. But of course, like always, there is one catch. One player is not actually given a clue. Instead, they're told you are the undercover agent. They are given the word in its entirety. And their goal is to make sure that no one else can successfully guess the 10-letter word. Now, how they do this is up to them. They get every single clue that every player is given. They just need to convince people or deceive people enough to make sure that nothing happens. There are 2 end states for this game. The first is if a player can successfully guess the word, the undercover agent is immediately becomes the deathmatch candidate and is thrown into the deathmatch. While then it goes for most points wins. More than likely, that's going to be the person who solved the word with some ties based on what they did in previous rounds. And on the other hand, if no one manages to guess the secret word at all, the undercover agent wins the game, and the person with the least amount of points becomes the elimination candidate. So the game is about figuring out how quickly you can figure out the word using the hints you got, or making sure you know who the undercover agent is and making sure that you have enough information to succeed, but not enough that it throws them under a bus. Unfortunately, this main match absolutely does not go to the producer's plan. Apparently, in testing, this game was played 3 different times, and all 3 times the undercover agent was completely blown. They did not win. Someone always managed to successfully get the word. So it was definitely a shock what happened this time around because, spoiler alert, it does not get guessed, but that's not because people didn't figure it out. We get the slow dribble of people figuring out some initial strategies. Charlotte immediately pitches making sure the agent is on your side so you can get fed a bunch of information and do what you need to, as long as you don't betray the agent. And Bodelia kind of pulls Ben, Indy, and Charlotte aside before people can even get roles and says, look, no matter what, I'd love to work with y'all. Let's make sure that we have each other in good graces. And we kind of have a four together of Bodelia, Ben, Indy, Charlotte, seemingly for this game. We begin to see people roll in here. Amalfi, Indy, Charlotte. And as people roll in, they're slowly revealing clues. And in the background, I'm going, oh, we're just going to like lay everything out on the table. This is a bit strange. Wouldn't you want to keep this a secret? Like, because we're basically confirming who isn't the agent at this point. And then they straight up say Ben is the agent. There's no cover, there's no pretense or anything. It's just Ben is the agent. Done. Wouldn't you want to hide this information if, like, for example, we have Zombies last round where Amalfi was very well hidden while Charlotte was much more public because she immediately came out as being a zombie. Well, that's because Ben decides to go for the Charlotte route of immediately attempting to hard control the game as the undercover agent. Literally, I just looked at my screen and went, what is happening? It felt like whiplash of the whole time you're supposed to play this as a secret. It's called Undercover, but I don't know if Ben can actually control the game properly by basically being public. Because Ben immediately, one, buys a hint. This is never fully explained in the episode, but there are 3 hints that you can buy, marked 1, 2, 3. The first person to buy them gets them, and otherwise the hint is destroyed. The first is 1 garnet, second is 2, third is 3. But yeah, Ben immediately snatches the envelope, which has the 1 garnet clue in it. Which apparently, according to Ben, Amalfi was also looking at grabbing and was not visibly annoyed, but like, really? Just directly after essentially round 1 was started when they could buy it. Ben almost immediately drags Ben, Bodelia, Indy, Charlotte off to the side and just tells everyone, do not share anything until I get back. And basically everyone goes, oh, you're the agent. That's how we're playing this game. So instead of this being a game of trying to figure out what the word is, the really logical deduction, this game has turned into a social game where Ben is controlling how the outcome works. And if people who don't like Ben can figure it out in time and want to betray Ben, they can snap him into the death match immediately. It's interesting because obviously this is not how it was planned to go. We've had 2 very social games back to back in terms of like someone kind of controlling how things go. So it felt like it was supposed to be a departure from that. But at the same time, I'm not mad because this is incredible gameplay. And I do think that if you were able to massively shift the game into a state where you are completely in control and you're logicking all this out, good on you. Like, the producers are giving you rules, you get to make up the rules, and that's what the genius is. Well, you get to essentially work around those rules to find your own solutions. Now, it seems initially that Ben's target is pointed towards Ken and Amalfi. It seems like the group as a whole, just because of Amalfi's actions last round, want him to be under the fire here. But at the same time, Ben is looking at Ken of like, I really haven't worked with him. I can throw him out and it'd be fine for me. So he's trying to almost position it to where it looks like both Ken and Amalfi might take one of Bex or Basha into the DM. So it's weird already, like basically betting that like half the cast will be safe, and what that half of the cast is Ben's side. So Ben just needs to figure out how to make sure that he's not really being pinned. So everything is looking ultimately very weird, where people are like, oh, we are kind of being told not to play the game at this point. Ben is just going to give us things to guess. Ben just literally hands out RSE to basically everyone of like, hey, this is my plan. I'm just going to screw over one person, but I'm not going to immediately let them know who. Ken does almost immediately clock like, you're unwilling to tell me who you're screwing. Me, right? Like this is a little too obvious. And basically, yeah, that's Ben's internal strategy, but we'll see how it goes because it looks like people are going to start comparing notes. Now Ben did explain basically in his own video, which if you look up Genius Game episode 3 on YouTube, you can probably find Ben's explanation. Ben was petrified of going home early and wanted to dodge any sort of social DM, which I just want to say to Ben, I fully understand where you're coming from. I mean, I've very much been in games very similar to this, where I look at it as this is my only time I'm ever going to get to play a game like this. And to have that internal fear of this is all being recorded forever. Everyone in the world will be able to see this and I can't do anything about it is horrifying. Like on a very visceral level. Just that history is going to be there forever. And especially when, as Ben even put it, like some people don't have a tie of being good at this type of game to their job, but Ben has a lot more of a direct connection. And yeah, no, I very much understand the fear and of losing, especially when you feel like you're representing a lot more than yourself. So, I mean, it sucks, but I mean, within that fear, Ben played this episode amazingly. So, I mean, what can you do? I do respect the shit out of it, Ben. You should be really proud of how you've been playing this entire series so far. So, basically, as people are talking, basically everyone gets the information. Ben is a little bit too far into sketching out Ken, and then slightly Amalfi kind of like gets it of like, am I the one that's being screwed over here? And then we get our flash forward of the episode. And it seems like Amalfi has figured out the word somehow and has the power alone, if he wanted to send Ben directly into the death match. Yeah, no, I mean, Amalfi is incredibly good at this. He has basically been, I mean, he's been a front runner, so it does not surprise me that he was able to immediately do that. But we'll see exactly how it gets to that position in a bit, because this is basically the precursor to the actual rewind of the episode. before we get right into guessing during round one, we do have Indy basically pulling aside a bunch of, I want to say it was Allison and Charlotte and Bex over to the side and going, why are we just like letting Ben run this game right now? Like, we're basically given no agency to play this game in any particular way. We just have to accept that Ben is controlling it. And I don't like that. And I also agree because, yeah, any sort of loss of agency, especially in a game where it's going to take like 2 hours, to not have any sort of agency within minute like 2 or 3 is horrendous mentally. You're just like, okay, great. I'll just sit on my ass for 2 hours. And I do think that this kind of sentiment of why are we letting Ben just run everything is going to spill over into future episodes. I'm very interested to see how Indy is going to be kind of going to let this slide. We do see it a little bit later, and I'll talk about it, but I do think if anyone is probably going to go up against Ben in terms of making sure that he is not in a great position moving forward, it could very well be Indy. But going into the end of round one, we have three different groups of three that go, three different groups who submit kind of the same strategy. We have Indy, Bodelia, and Charlotte, each seemingly submitting RSE in the first, second, and third slots, aka Ben's proposed strategy. I don't believe we ever see Bodelia and Charlotte actually submit it, but based on the other rounds, it makes the most sense. Some people definitely use RSE, but move the letters around in order to potentially just get more information. So we have Amalfi putting the R on 1, the E on 3, and the S on 10. Basha does almost the same thing, except moves the E to the 5th position. And then Ken plays it a lot more towards the end with the S on 6, E on 9, and R on 10. And then the people who completely ignore this strategy are Allison, who submits B, R, and A. We have Bex, who submits C, A, and T, and Ben, who submits B, E, E. We get the round one scores. Allison has nothing right. Ben and Bex have 1 point, and Amalfi, Basha, Bodelia, Charlotte, Indy, and Ken each have 2. Now, obviously, that means for Amalfi, Basha, and Ken that their moving around of letters did not actually affect anything, unless they somehow managed to get something in the right place when it wasn't originally. But also, Bex now knows that only one of hers is correct, and Allison knows that nothing is right. Now, I will say, is probably my major complaint for this episode. I felt like there was zero way for anyone that was viewing it to actually figure out the word at any point during the actual episode. I mean, straight up, when I was watching it with people, I didn't know half the hints because they were all thrown at us at once and never actually recorded. Now, granted, I feel like if this episode didn't end up turning where Ben was basically controlling everything, probably we would have seen it more. But seeing the hints as is and not being really able to crack anything, I think did hinder this episode in terms of actual viewability. I don't think there was a way to naturally figure out what the word could have been unless you straight up paused your TV, wrote down all the hints, and then took like 10 minutes to attempt to crack it. And I want to say, even with the hints given, it's not really possible, which means you would have need to use the player input, which was then ultra sanitized via Ben because everyone was essentially submitting the same thing. So unfortunately, I think the mystery aspect of this episode in terms of actually being able to crack the word went out the window because of how the edit needed to happen, which is unfortunate. But ultimately, I mean, what can you do in this situation? It's not like you're going to be able to like just throw it out all at people and just expect them to be able to crack the word from home. So moving into round 2 here, Charlotte and Ben immediately pull aside, and Charlotte's like, "Hey, Indy's ready to turn on you. Like, you need to make sure that she's good, but also like." I don't know, like maybe I'd love a token of life from this. And Ben goes, okay, yep, we need to make sure that Indy is on side, but maybe we don't keep her in a long-term plan at this point. Ken and Amalfi, who both feel very suspicious about what's happening right now, swap info. They realize that they've been given the same thing, but they both swapped around the letters and got no new information, which makes sense. Basically, they just confirm to each other that 2 of S, R, and E are in the word, but they don't necessarily know what positions. They can rule out a couple small things, but it's not really much. However, Allison does come into the room with Indy in it and reveals that BRA, her submission, got nothing, which then allows, like, subconsciously for Ben and for Ken and Amalfi to rule down the letters that it could be. If BRA scores nothing, then the R and RSE can't score anything either, unless they put those letters in one of those 2 letters in the exact same place, which I will double check my notes here. They did not. Amalfi and Ken did not put S, R, and E in the same place in any of theirs. They know that now S and E are in the word in some place. So that is good information for them along with Indy. But it once again, we see a weird disconnect of the 2 of them knowing that it probably is one of the 2, one of Ken and Amalfi being targeted. But from what we know behind the scenes from players, which once again, thank you for all the information you've given us. We know that people were very much not really being forthcoming about clues, trying to stick to Ben's plan. So Ken and Amalfi were basically working off the small bit of information that they had in order to make sure that they didn't get screwed. Bodalia, in the meantime, pitches to Ben, hey, you know what? I'm your strongest ally. Give me the token of life, and we can target Amalfi and get him out of here. Which, once again, Ben just kind of logs into the back of his mind of, okay, yeah, I mean, you probably are my strongest ally. I'll consider definitely giving it to you. We'll just have to see how this round plays out. I hear your note on targeting Amalfi. We'll see. Especially because, I mean, Amalfi and Bodalia, especially at the last round, are very much not happy with each other. We see then Bodalia kind of looking to Indy and saying, hey, look, I get it. I'm with you. I don't want this to be how this round goes. Please be quiet. We don't need to like go crazy here and do something insane, which Indy is like, fine, whatever. I'll accept it. And once again, I don't blame her. She really did just kind of get screwed by timing and how this game is being played. I know that Indy really wanted to play this game, and it's not happening. And then we finally get Ben and Allison talking. And Allison basically be like, hey, what is the plan? Like, you never told me anything. And Ben goes, I didn't tell you anything? Oh, shit, that's a problem. And of course, Allison now just has a bunch of information of like, oh yeah, I can do RES, but I know that R isn't right. And Ben's like, please don't say anything. Just please keep quiet. We don't need that information spreading. And I mean, if Allison wanted to, she could very much screw Ben here by like giving everyone required information, just boost their scores. But at the same time, Allison is already pretty much on the bottom here of trying to figure out how this game could work, especially because she has 0 points and she needs a lot more to step things up. So the final thing that happens in round 2 is Bex just publicly stating like, hey, really don't feel good about this. I feel like I'm being picked at specifically. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this information. Like, I just don't feel good in my current position. And it's specifically almost looking at a mom feel like, hey, can we like figure something out from last round? But we now go into the round 2 letter selections, which simply has Indy, Bodelia, Charlotte, Ken, and Bex all following RSE 1, 2, 3. We have then Amanfi keeping his same RES strategy of last round. And then we have 3 people who don't exactly follow things. We have Allison, who puts L in 5, S in 6, and E in 10. We have Ben, who spells out Lee in the first 3 slots. We have Basha, who puts an S in 1, a T in 2, and an E in 6. And unsurprisingly, this does actually matter, as everyone but Ben and Basha gets 2 points. Basha gets 3 points and Ben gets 1, meaning that everyone's eyes are now on Basha for, oh, you are not following the plan. Interesting. Now, Basha specifically kind of like plays it off as like, oh, well, I didn't understand how the RSE thing worked. I thought I swapped it around or tried to do something. But immediately people are like, sure, Jan, sure. I feel bad because Basha did not need to do this. She really didn't need to do this. She already has a massive target on her from winning a death match. She seems to be on the bottom, not bottom socially, but like not in the people's top numbers. And this move unfortunately puts her in a really big spotlight, even though, as we've seen, other people have not followed this and kind of been all right. I think there is something to this game where if you intentionally try to isolate letters as completely wrong, you probably could put yourself in a good position to guess the word at the very end of the game. But as has been said so many times, this game quickly turned from let's try and figure out the word to let's make sure that Ben is in good standing with me very fast. And yeah, no, it's not going to change anytime soon. So Charlotte goes to talk with Ben near the middle of round 3 and basically goes, hey, you have me, right? Like we're good. You can give me the token of life. Like we're good on that front. And Ben kind of has to go, well, I mean, Bodelia asked for it before you, so I'm probably going to go there, but I'm not sure because you might be my strongest ally. And Ben starts waffling between the 2 names of who is his strongest, and I can absolutely see this just leading to both of them kind of losing trust in Ben no matter the decision at this point. But it just simply is not going great for Ben. Even if he's in a position of power, it seems like people are really annoyed with him at this point. And I mean, Ben does go to Allison and Bex, who've already been low, and been like, hey, here's a bunch of extra information for you to catch up really quick to everyone else. Please don't share this info with anyone else. Da, 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 da. And we see both of those pieces of information come into the guesses for the final round where you only put down 3 letters. So we have directly following Ben's rule, Indy, Bodelia, Charlotte, Ken, and Basha all just submitting RSE in the first 3 slots. Amalfi does the exact same RES strategy as he has done the entire game. Ben submits A, B, C in the first 3 slots. Allison is told to submit T, S, I in slots 3, 4, 5. And Bex is told to submit T, R, I into slots 3, 4, 5. Now, as we had already kind of logicked out, R can't be in the word. S could be. And it seems like that's exactly how it's working because T and I seem to both score a point. And then T, S, and I all seem to give a good amount of weight as well. Bex ends up scoring 3, and Allison ends up scoring 4, meaning all of the words in Allison's probably are correct. Bex specifically must know that in order to get 3, R can't be in it. Well, we at least know that. So there's something going on there where at least one of those letters, T or I, probably is correct. So once again, we have a weird position where everyone is on 6, excluding Ben, who's on 2, and Basha, who's on 7. And Bex at this point is just very down of like, I don't know. I feel like I'm just gonna get targeted. Like I'm gonna do the best with the information I have, but like what other option do I have? I'm kind of just accepting that I'm ready to go into elimination here. And Ken is feeling a very similar way of like, I don't know if I'm going to be told the right thing this round. It could easily be me. Just as a little offhand conversation because it's probably not going to matter at all. Bedelia and Bex both asked the dealer like how remind me of the extra the points we need for an extra garnet here. And before the dealer can answer, Ben goes, "Oh, it's 20. All you need to hit is 20, and it's 3 or less people. It may not be worth it though. It may be a little too much in order to get that done." The dealer never answers. So we never get a concrete answer from the dealer herself. Just note that in the back of your mind. It's probably not important, but and Ben at this point has gone fully off the deep end in terms of masterminding this entire game. He literally goes to the main atrium, calls everyone over, says, I'm going to give you your information in private that will get you to a specific level. I mean, it's really effective. It works, but it's way too public. And I mean, I do love a completely dominating victory in a game like this. It's really impressive, but it's just too much. It's too much, and I know that Ben is going to be clocked for it in the future round. So Ben in his back pocket has 2 notes. One of them with the correct information, one of them with the wrong information. He's going to show every single person the correct information, excluding his target who is going to get the wrong information. Now, as this is being announced, Bex, Indy, and Ken are just visibly done. They're like, fine, whatever. I guess if we need to, like, they really feel like they don't have a choice at this point. And people begin filing in. They get the information. Charlotte pushes Ben for a hard answer on, are you going to give me the token of life? And the answer is, I don't know. I mean, Charlotte at this point basically assumes she's not going to get it. So what can you do other than just say like, mm, Ben accidentally made two promises to two people and has to break one of them. So we will see if Bedelia or Charlotte gets it. But no matter what, it's pissed off probably both of them in some amount. Ben is now under a lot of time pressure, and everyone gets through. Both Bex's and Ken's information looks a little off. We see both of their information, but we're unsure who actually has the incorrect information at this point. Now, in the last couple of seconds, Bedelia and Bex have been talking and are like, hey, look, we love an extra garnet out of this. And you can literally give us that. All you have to do is give us the right word that won't compromise your position too much. And basically, Ben's like, yeah, no, that'll work. But I'm going to give it to Bedelia, Allison, and Amalfi. Interesting. I mean, it does eliminate Amalfi as the target, which could piss off Bedelia. But I think it is worthwhile to build a bridge between both Bedelia and Amalfi as using Ben as the counter. I really don't know about giving. I mean, Allison got kind of screwed by Ben, so that makes sense. But not really taking a side could absolutely make both of them look at Ben as a problem rather than a solution and use these garnets to screw Ben. Now, we do get the final word guesses here. Ben is the first to go and submits extinguisher, or the word extinguish with an A at the end instead of an H. I assume this is because if Ben guesses the word himself, he also loses, which makes sense. But it really is a null use case here. We see Indy, Charlotte, and Basha both submit LET, SIU, LET, SIU, ULSN. Let's see some. Not an actual word, but I mean just enough to have him in, just enough to have them in a good spot. And Bex also submits that word, while Ken submits CLSLAANTOS, or Santos. I don't know. Both of these are just not English words. And finally, we have Allison and Bedelia submitting Itogesh, or EETILGUESH, which is very much almost the word at that point. And Amalfi also gets ready to submit that word, but he has clocked the word, especially off of that. Itogesh is very much too close to extinguish to not know how to clock it, especially after you have all the information that you do. And I will also look at Amalfi's clue really quick. The last two vowels are in reverse alphabetical order. So Amalfi does see here that U and E as the last two letters of the word almost makes sense with his clue, but you could just swap out an I and it looks physically better, especially because you can't throw an E to make like Beetlejuice or something similar. So it looks like it's probably going to be the word extinguish, and Amalfi has basically figured it out. But will he actually submit it? We now get our lovely rewind of the episode where Amalfi overhears that Ben is attempting to target Basha and Bex to Indy, Charlotte, and Bedelia. And Amalfi kind of wants to protect Bex in any way that he can, of like making sure that Bex doesn't go home, because Amalfi and Bex have had a good working relationship the past couple episodes. So Amalfi has now been trying to crack this code of, can I successfully get Bex into a good position, or would it be better to straight up screw Ben and take control for myself here? We do now get to the end result. It is essentially Ben versus Amalfi. If Amalfi wants to take control and send Ben into the death match, where Amalfi then protects Bex and Ben has to choose someone else, or Ben wins, seemingly screwing Ken, and Ken takes someone with Bodelia safe. We find out that one, Ben is in fact the actual secret agent. There's no big twist there. And no one managed to clock the secret word, meaning that Ben has won this game and is safe. Amalfi did also submit Irogush and ties for first among the non-secret agent players of Allison and Bodelia. And Ken very much has the weakest word, ends up scoring 9 points total, and gets sent to the death match. Now, small problem. So Allison, Bodelia, and Amalfi all on 20. Unfortunately, the cast needed to get to 21 points in order to score an extra garnet, meaning no one gets anything except for Ben, who now has 3 extra garnets in his back pocket. I don't believe this was an intentional mistake on Ben's part to make sure that he was the only one who had control. I believe this was genuinely a misunderstanding. We even saw earlier that Bodelia and Bex tried to correct it, and Ben cut them off too fast. But yeah, no one gets garnets outside of Ben, and everyone just goes, oh my god, okay, great. All of that effort for nothing on our end. Ben does pass the token of life to Bodelia, leaving Charlotte out to dry. And Ken drags the person with the experience in the deathmatch already, Vasha. And Vasha is basically going like, yeah, look, none of this is surprising. Y'all think about who you trust, because right now, if I go home, it should be very obvious what's happening. And we go into a little bit of a known game. And I will say, this DM is very well known, and I'm very much happy with it basically going back and forth from new game, old DM, returning DM essentially, and new main, an old main match, new DM. It looks like next episode could follow a similar format or could not. We simply don't know yet. But before that, we have this episode's death match, which is called Poker Face. This is a classic from South Korean Genius. It was also played on Netherlands. There it was called Blind Poker. In the original, it was called Indian Poker. I'm very happy with the name change here, mainly because Poker Face is just a really good pun for this specific game. And the other one is based off a stereotype that we don't really need to continue. It was 2010 when South Korea aired. I'll give them some grace. So in Poker Face, the players are given a deck of 20 cards. That would be one card will be given to them each round. Once all cards are used up, a new deck is brought out and reshuffled. Players each round get a single card that they put up to their forehead, meaning that players cannot actually see their own hands, but instead can see their opponents. Each player is also given 30 chips, and after a basic ante, the starting player can decide to bet any amount of chips that they want. The other player then has 3 options. They can either call that, meaning they put down the chips to match 5-5, for example, both cards are revealed. Winner takes the pot. They can raise, which simply allows them to put down what was already put down by the other player and keep going up and give them the exact same decision. Or they can fold, putting their card down, saying, I'm not paying this anymore, and the other person automatically wins. Once a call has occurred, both players reveal their card, and the player with the higher card wins. There is one more additional rule. If a player folds a 10 for any reason, they must pay 10 chips immediately to their opponent as a penalty. So it is a game of bluffing and making sure that you can get your opponent to basically believe that they have a high card when they shouldn't, or a low card when they should. Now, this match immediately, Bosch was like, I don't get it. I really am confused here. And Ken is like, you know what? I'm confident in this. I think I can do well. Basically, this match just starts going pretty fast. Vasha immediately is kind of like, I don't necessarily know how to play this game, so I'm going to table talk and try and get Ken disarmed a bit to make sure that he can't card count. Because both players pretty quickly figure out that if there's only 2 of each card, 1 through 10, you can probably predict by the end of the deck, as long as you're paying attention well enough, what cards are at the bottom and be able to play off that in terms of odds. So both of them go back and forth. It is shown more as Vasha being able to kind of control the game here in terms of table talk, but via the other players, we do know that Ken also went back and forth and very much kind of talked at it. I mean, Ken is a comedian. He's going to be very, very funny with it. And apparently this is when, for a lot of players, that Ken kind of opened up, which I personally love. I've loved Ken for years. He is hilarious. And it's good to know that he's finally being able to be shown in a very positive light and be able to be a comedian. But Ken is losing a lot early game. The cards are just not going into his favor, right? Basha is getting a lot of good high cards. Ken's getting a lot of low cards. And even as Ken is kind of like thinking about how things can go, you can only get so lucky and force Basha to fold so many times. And it just is really looking like Ken is slipping backwards and backwards and backwards. But there's something that we didn't tell. Ken is not only a stand-up comic and a mainstay in No Rules Bart, he's also a poker player. So Ken has been trading this information the whole time. Obviously, he's been bleeding a little bit in terms of chips, but he's still doing the right thing by gaining how Basha's playing this game strategically. And by the time we get an ante-up just to like speed things along, Ken is kind of almost locked down how Basha's playing this game and just slowly gets some reads back and slowly clocks things a little bit more and more by time. And he starts counting the cards correctly. Basha counts it a little bit as well, but Ken slowly begins to pull back from going down from about 14 chips back to 31 when we get to 3 ante. And by the time we get to the very end, Basha is playing on her last legs. Ken has completely controlled the game. And there is no question. Basha gets one lucky draw off of an ante where she pulls a couple chips, but then kind of loses it all. Ken does end up pulling away with it, which means, unfortunately, Basha is our third eliminated player. And unfortunately, Basha was definitely just a casualty of this episode. I feel like if she had gotten a chance to play the logical game here, she probably would have done really well. Unfortunately, she just wasn't in Ben's long-term plans. And Ben basically engineered this game to make sure that the people he wanted safe would be safe the entire time, meaning that unfortunately it was her time to go. But I really did like this episode overall for what we got. We got finally Ken glowing up and being a very public figure and getting his flowers. We got a lot of people playing I guess, a bit more passive. If I were to critique anything, let me just swap to the other screen because we are about to finish up here. I really do think that this game was probably the game that took the producers most by surprise, because obviously this never happened in testing. The undercover agent always lost, and here they won by doing something that the producers could have never expected. But I think that for TV wise, this was potentially the best possible scenario of people going wild. So I am not complaining too much in the end result. Ben is very much now the top dog and is almost too public, possibly to where Scott was in episode 2. It would not shock me if he gets screwed by a lot of people in episode 4 and takes some hits, unfortunately. Right now, if I had to lock down a winner of this entire series, Amanfi or Charlotte. Straight up, I think both of them are playing really good games. They both shown themselves to be really useful to allies, but also have really good heads of their own and know how to work strategically and socially in order to play a really, really, really smart game. My one complaint overall for this episode is there was no way for us to logically figure out the word before it was essentially given to us. I feel like that's just unfortunately how the episode went, but you can't ever really plan for that. But instead, we got great TV. Now, looking ahead to the next episode, it looks like we have 6 sort of glowing cubes. Potentially, they're worth a certain amount of points because everyone has a private hand. My guess is this is some sort of big deal or Monopoly style game. If you've ever played Pit, very similar idea. There could be some shoot the moon thing where obviously red is normally bad. Red and black cubes are both available. Maybe if you get all of them, you win. There's maybe certain sets you can make. I'd be very interested to see what happens overall with this next episode, along with a death match that no one can clock. It's just a straight table with seemingly 2 slits, 2 pieces of wood with slits in them. I've heard speculations of black and white, but also that would go against the idea of having a new game, old game in one of the episodes. It could just be broken next episode, but my gut says that we're going to see something different. And I want to see what happens out of this next game. And finally, once again, thank you to the entire cast and crew of the series. It really has been incredible so far. And even with the minor complaints that I have, I still do really enjoy it. I know the ratings aren't going necessarily the way that people would want it to, but I feel like there's been a couple things behind the scenes that may have contributed to that. Unfortunately, I think this series will be remembered as a good, strong series overall, with a couple of bumps because this is the first time it's being imported internationally in basically a format that more heavily relies on the original. But with that said, that is all I've got. We're just about at the hour mark, so I say we get out of here. Once again, if you've enjoyed listening to my voice for the past hour, please feel free to subscribe, hit the like button, whatever platform you're listening to this on, give us a follow, give us some love, because we'd love to have you stick with us, especially for maybe some other reality TV. If you like any sort of international Survivor, maybe Survivor Australia versus the World that's coming up. Destination X, which we have some lovely coverage coming for, including potentially some exit interviews, which would be really nice. if you like drag, we also have a channel for that. We have a channel for WWE and also Eurovision Song Contest, all of which can be found in our link tree as well. And we're looking to hit 1,000 subscribers on all of those. So please, if you have time, feel free to give us a follow on there. Please feel free to follow us below on either the Cut Pod, which is our general channel, or my own. I am Jack the Flop on Instagram and Blue Sky, and Jack the Flop TTV on Twitter. And finally, if you are interested in getting some lovely merch, please feel free to head to our store at lanagcreations.etsy.com. Once again, that is lanagcreations.etsy.com for any sweatshirts, mugs, anything you could ever want. But my brain is pretty worn out. I hope y'all are ready for the midpoint of this series. And until next time, I'm going to get out of here. Cheers!